Okay, so the lighting isn't the best, but I just have a story that I would like to tell you. And I want to tell you about negotiation skills, to tell you about the power of negotiation, to be able to communicate your intentions, your needs, your wishes in a way that is understood by those that you are communicating with, and also in a way that they are compelled to actually listen to you, understand you, and be willing to meet your needs, especially when it doesn't benefit them on the surface, but it can leave them with a feeling of fulfillment, and then maybe in the long term it benefits them. So I'm at the airport, I am traveling. Ooh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. I thought I was going to miss this. Thank you. Okay, let me first eat. I'll be back. Through a story, I would like to share with you the power of not taking a fight lying down, fighting till the end, and being able to communicate your needs, whether it is negotiating a higher pay in your work, whether it's winning a possible funder, whether it's impressing people in an interview. It's very important for you to be able to communicate what you mean, to tell a story in a very precise, concise, and a very logical way, and also use a bit of emotion, persuasion, and to literally get buy-in from people to make them attached to the story and ensure that they have the will, they have the commitment to contribute to whatever your objective is. So this is what happened to me yesterday. Yesterday I had a flight scheduled for a particular time. Okay. Anyway, let me hurry. I have to go for my flight. So basically, I came to the airport slightly late. Within the time for the check-in, but slightly late. For those who are routine travelers, you know that you have to, for international flights, you really have to get here early enough so that you can have your check-in done really early enough. So I was really caught up in time, and I barely made it, but I made it all the same. So when I got here, I found that the check-in for my airways was locked. I looked at the screen, and the screen was telling me go to zone D or zone E. And when I would go there, they weren't there. I asked everybody. I asked anyone who seemed official. I asked other airways. I was very frustrated, but nothing could be done. I called my travel agency. They said, we can't help you if you've missed the check-in, and they have left the check-in site. Then you cannot really go in. And I was very frustrated, but I really, really had to get to where I was going. So I told them, you know what, I need a flight. What can you do for me? And of course, when you pay for a next day flight in the previous day, on the eve of the flight, it's very expensive. So I was very, very frustrated, but I had to cough that money. I had to cough it. 1 minute you're a millionaire, the next minute you're broke. I had to cough it. I coughed the money. I paid for the ticket, but I was really, really frustrated. So while I was there, still literally thinking about my life, about my decisions, I met another gentleman who had also missed the same flight for the same airways. So we were talking about the logistics of how we had come to miss our flights. And when he told me that by the time he came, now for him, he had come way earlier than I had. And by the time he came, he still did not find that check-in. So though I came slightly later, he was there significantly earlier, and he indeed did not find that check-in. So he too had missed the flight. Now by the time when he missed the check-in, he reached out to the Airways communication department via email, via phone call, and he was put on hold for like 1.5 hours. He was on hold, but so on one of his phones, he's on hold from someone from the Airways. On the other phone, he's on WhatsApp texting the Airways. Now, when I also missed the check-in, I literally talked to anyone who I could find about my issue, about how the guys for the Airways weren't in the check-in, and I made a couple of complaints here and there. I spoke to anybody who seemed official and who seemed responsible for the airport, and I spoke to them, and they were like, they said their hands were tied. So combining our efforts and trying to find a way forward, we tried to speak to different people and all. And now for him, funny thing is he was a groom. He is a groom, and he was getting married 2 days later. So missing his flight, he was missing his wedding literally, and he was freaking out, and I was freaking out for him. And I had lost a lot of money just to reschedule the flight. So eventually Airways lead or head comes, looks for us. I don't know how they knew where to find us, but we were in some corner thinking about our problems, giving each other comfort, and then somebody from Airways passes by, and then they begin talking to us, and I tell her what happened, and I'm like, yo, that the check-in closed way before time. Fine, you say come 3 hours before. However, there's a window through which you must be there present for people to check in, and you weren't there. So how can you help us? And we begin talking to her, and she's like, no, you guys came late. We're like, less is relative. You should have been at the check-in and all. So after talking to her, she's like, you know what, give me your passports. She takes our passports, she goes to like some screen, and she's trying to figure things out. So now me and my friend who I had met, who had also missed his flight, were talking and trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean? Is she going to get for us a flight? How can we, what should we do? So as we are still talking on the side, I'm like, you know what, I think we should go to her because she has gone into our passports. Who knows what she's doing with our passports? It's better off, we are better being close to her and close to our passports. So we went to her, and we were, and she was on some screen, and we were talking to her, and she's like, you know what, and she tells us, I'm trying to get for you new flights at no cost. I'm like, okay, that's really good. And I told her that, well, I had already paid for a scheduled flight. I had already paid, and what are you going to do for me? And she's like, you know what, they have to refund you because this wasn't your fault at all, and they have to refund you. So we reached out to my travel agency, talked to them, and they're like, they were at first reluctant to issue the refund, but of course you pull out the big guns, and she's like, oh, I'm from the Airways department, you have to refund her, this wasn't her fault, and you haven't issued a ticket to her because it's us who issue a ticket to her, and that hasn't been issued yet, so refund her the money. So she makes sure to email them and through the official Airways email, and they said they would deal with me the next day because it was already out of working hours for them. So in short, we did not just take the news of missing our flights lying down. We discussed it. We reached out to any official person who we could find. We tried to talk to them and try to ensure that they know our issue. On my side, I wasn't sure how fast help would come, so I had to reschedule my flight because I had to go where I was going urgently, so I had to reschedule my flight. And of course I did know that a few minutes later someone would come and give us newer flights. So I did reschedule my flight, and my friend also phoned his flight, and he is going to be on time for his wedding. But the gist of this is, whatever happens, what's the time? I may miss this flight also. 10 minutes. So whatever happens, you must not take anything lying down. You must be able to communicate what you're feeling, not necessarily in an aggressive, an accusatory tone, but in a way that there's urgency, you're firm, there's a demand and strength in your voice, there's some emotion, a good quantity of emotion for someone to see your frustration, for someone to see that you've been through something, and asking them to do something. Can't you do something? I don't care what happened, but all I need is my flight. Can you do something? And who knows? Someone will be able to do something, So I wouldn't say that this necessarily benefits the person who helped us, but if you can all live mutually satisfied and they have the means to be of service to you, then you must be able to tap into any influence you have within your voice, within your story, within your ability to communicate, should come and help you to get what you need at the appropriate time. So that's my story. Let me rush and actually check in because I may miss this flight as well.